right in the kisser.
Hey, how the devil are you? Have a look what we have today. Ho! These are the 12.2 I's from the new 12i series. Came out, I think, December-ish. Now, apparently, I'm the first to do a review on these. Oh, what an honour. Oh, hey. So, you know, hey. Right, so these are more of a little bit of an upgrade rather than a complete refurb or refit. They're not a new speaker, they've just made some improvements to the old version because it's a little bit of a case of why reinvent the wheel if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And as I always say, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
The original 12 series was probably the best diamond speakers you could get. Fantastic entry-level speaker series. So they've just made some little improvements and little tweaks, okay? And before I even start the video, it's worked. So before I do anything else, let's bring you in for a closer look. And there we go. Ta-da! Right. So I've got two speakers here. This is the original 12.2 and this is the 12.2i. So they look very similar. So first of all, you look at got the magnetic grille here. There you go, I'll take them off now. So they both still got the magnetic grille. Front baffle looks very similar. They're still using the same 1-inch 25mm textile dome tweeter. And they're still using the same Clarity polypropylene and mica 6.5-inch 150mm mid bass. But if you look what they've done here, the colours are slightly different. The colour scheme is a bit different. So they try to make it a little bit more contemporary. So they're semi-matte now and the gloss baffle has gone. They come in at 3 colours. So they come in all black, classic walnut and stone grey. I think the colours look really nice. These are part of the 12i series and that includes the 12i's, 12.1i's, 12.2i's, which are these, 12.3i's, 12.4i's. Then you've got the centre speaker, the CI, the 12CI. Then you've got the upward firing Atmos speaker, which is the 3DI. Now, the crazy thing is, I don't know how they managed to do it, okay, but they haven't increased the price at all. So they're the same price as these were back in 2020, almost 6 years later. What? I don't know how they've managed to do it, but it's fantastic that they've managed to keep the price the same, because a lot of companies, they tend to put an extra 50 quid on top when they bring out a new range of speakers, but they've kept them exactly the same price. So fair play to Wharfedale. Right, the measurements on these are the height is 335mm, that's 13 inches. Width is 200mm, 8 inches. Depth is 285mm, 11 inches. And they weigh 8.2 kilograms each, and that's about 18 pounds. Okay, let's have a little look on the back. Okay, on the back. Now, can you spot the difference? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just isn't the same. Something like that, isn't it? So you can see that they've removed the twin binding posts. And I think that's a good shout personally. I've experimented with bi-wiring in several occasions, and I've never had a good result. And I always feel it never makes a difference. I just think it's a massive placebo effect. Now, people do get confused with bi-wiring and bi-amping. Okay, bi-wiring 2 wires, bi-amping 2 amps. Okay, I have experimented with bi-amping, albeit on a receiver. I didn't get good results with that, probably because the amps in the receiver weren't powerful enough. But I also think that if you're going to try bi-amping, you're going to need to do it with 2 powerful amps, decent power amps, and a tower speaker, a big, large, hard to drive floor stander. I think it's pointless having bi-wiring on a bookshelf speaker. And I've always said, I'd rather them get rid of the twin binding posts and put single binding posts on and spend more money on the internals, which it looks like they have. So what improvements or what tweaks have they made? Well, they've made some tweaks to the base port. They've done some changes to the base port design and base port tuning and airflow. They've also improved the internal damping. I'm not sure whether they've repositioned it or they're using a better damping material, but either or, they've done that. The cabinet is low resonance. It's a multi-layered sandwich construction, has spot bracing in the center, and even the adhesive has been acoustically tested to optimize damping, so that's pretty cool. I believe they're still using the same crossover, and for the price, it's all right. It's a decent crossover relative to the price, okay? And they are using a Linkwitch Riley crossover design with air core inductors, and you do tend to find that design, that type of crossover, on higher end speakers. But what is a Linkwitch Riley crossover? Well, let's ask my mad scientist friend.
A Linkwitch Riley crossover is often considered the gold standard for splitting an audio signal between different speaker drivers. Developed by engineers Siegfried Linkwitz and Russ Riley in 1976, it was designed to solve a specific problem: how to make two speakers sound like one perfectly blended source. When you have a woofer and a tweeter playing together, they overlap at the crossover point. If the crossover isn't designed correctly, you get lobing, where the sound beams up or down instead of at your ears. And sometimes you get annoying peaks in the volume. Essentially, if you move your head up or down while listening, the sound doesn't change drastically. Other crossovers create nulls, where certain frequencies disappear if you aren't sitting in the exact right height. Linkwitch Riley crossovers ensure the sweet spot is much larger. Linkwitch crossovers offer a flatter response, but they tend to use more parts, so can be more costly to install. Conversely, Butterworth crossovers use less parts and are often found in more budget-friendly speakers. They have a sharper knee at the cutoff point. However, some designers prefer the slight plus 3 dB energy boost at the crossover frequency because it can make the mid-range feel more alive or forward, even if it isn't technically flat.
And there you go. Oh, anyway, right. So, are they better than the original 12s? I think so. Look, are the differences night and day? No, but there is a definite improvement. So when it comes to the bass, I would say that the original 12s, they had good bass for a bookshelf speaker. Although what could happen with the bass is that if you had a fast bass track, it could kind of lose its accuracy a little bit. And what I found with the 12i's is that the bass is a little tighter and more articulate and a bit more accurate. But it still digs as deep as the original 12s, but they just tightened it up a little bit. When it comes to the mid-range is more forward than the original 12s. The original 12s were quite a laid-back, warmer sounding bookshelf. Whereas, I'm not going to say these are not warm, but they are more, they tend to be a bit more forward in the mid-range. And they've done it well because the voices are a bit more prominent in guitars and things like that. So the voices come through a little bit clearer. The treble, I think, is a little bit brighter than the original 12s. So you get a bit more detail retrieval. I also thought that they imaged a little bit better. Center imaging was good, stereo imaging was good, but the soundstage was just a little bit bigger, just a little bit, tended to fill the room a little bit more. I don't know how they've done this by just tuning the bass port and putting in some new damping material. Maybe the damping material in the old 12 was causing it, was giving it that warmer sound. I don't know, but it's a definite improvement. I like the improvements they've made. Now, if you originally bought the 12s and you're thinking, shall I upgrade to the 12Is? That's a tough one. Like I said, it's no night and day. And if you enjoy that warm sound of the original 12s, then maybe keep them. But if you want something that's a bit more forward, a little bit more exciting to listen to, potentially you want to get the 12Is. I really like the sound of them. I think they definitely improved on the sound of the originals, and the originals were great. They were so good, but they've done it. They've improved it. So there you go. I have done a sound test. I've used copyrighted material, so it's on a separate video. I'll put a link I'll pin it to the top of the comment section down below. I'll also put a link up here. So go and have a listen to that. And please let me know your thoughts and what you think of the differences between the two. Now, always remember that you're only, over YouTube, you're only going to get tonal differences. You're not going to get any sense of imaging or soundstage and things like that. You might get a bit of stereo imaging, but regards to soundstage and whatever, you're probably not going to get it. I would also recommend listening with headphones, okay? Because if you listen with your own system, you're hearing reflections in your room and my room, and it could get a bit messy. Depends if you've got if you're listening in an anechoic chamber, then it'll be fine. So use headphones. Anyway, so there you go. Go and have a listen to that, and I'll catch you in the next one.